Good afternoon. My name's Charlie Hill. I'm the CTO for Lotusphere. Thanks for joining us for the Project Vulkan session. Last year, at the end of the opening general session, we gave you a brief preview of a vision for exceptional work experiences that it's really a sort of multi-year vision that is guiding our product development. And what we want to do in this session is, I know people have been kind of clamoring to see some results of that vision, some of the real code and capabilities that we're developing. So that's where we're going to really be focusing in this session. With me are Jason Gary, who's the lead architect for Project Vulkan, and also Scott Prager, who is a distinguished engineer and leading the overall Project Vulkan effort. And they're going to come up and do the real work of the presentation in a minute. So just to sort of give you a little bit of guidance as to what we're going to go through, I'm going to briefly introduce Project Vulkan again. And then Jason's going to come up and give you a demo, nice and early in the session. And then he's going to go through some of the user experience design directions that we have developed alongside the technology to show you what the experience will be like as we bring these capabilities to market. And Project Vulkan basically boils down to a bunch of sort of gritty technical initiatives that are really enabling our products for the next generation of experience and capabilities. So Jason's going to walk through what those initiatives are at a more technical level, and then Scott's going to take over and go into what we call the IBM Social Business Toolkit, which is the developer-facing capabilities that we're providing Project Vulkan-driven capabilities through. And we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. All right, so as I said, Project Vulkan is a vision. It's a multi-year vision. It's going to be guiding what we do for a while to come. And it's really about exceptional work experiences. It's about enabling people to collaborate and do their work more productively than ever before. There's really a number of things that we're trying to do with this vision. The first goal is really focused around the end user. It's focused around employee productivity and being successful in what they do in their various kinds of work. And so one of the things that we're focused on is creating a unified experience that really simplifies and accelerates how people go about collaborating. We're also, not surprisingly, focused on the goal of making the experience more social and enabling social networking-driven modes of collaboration within this environment. And then finally, everyone wants convenience as they work, and everyone wants to be able to move around, be mobile, use different devices to collaborate. And so we have a lot of focus on providing much more flexible access to the collaboration environment. Second big focus area that we've concentrated on is accelerating deployment and also updating of capabilities. So there's a number of different things that are coming together here under this theme. The first one is providing a system model and a user experience that can span both on-premises deployed capabilities and also cloud-delivered capabilities in a kind of seamless way. The second piece is providing the option of having web-delivered user experiences to simplify the client side of deployment. And then finally, we want to make sure that you continue to have choice and flexibility in the capabilities that you actually choose to deploy, and flexibility in the order that you deploy them in. And so that's kind of another aspect of the work, and the technical work is really focused on achieving loose coupling, modularity, embracing the right technical standards to realize that goal. And the third theme that we're putting a lot of attention around is an open application model. We want to enable the collaboration environment to easily integrate a business application function that your employees use as they go about doing their work. And we also want the collaboration capabilities to be consumable in many different contexts of use. We're embracing web technology. This is really very much driven by web standards, web technologies, web development skills. And we believe that by embracing the right standards, we can really help drive integration and reuse of the capabilities, technologies that we bring to market. I want to go through the principles that you heard last year in the opening general session, just to remind you of what our kind of guiding ideas are that are shaping what we do here. The first principle is innovation. And innovation is really being driven by a number of different themes, but in particular by the opportunities afforded by analytics technologies. You've heard a lot of talk about analytics at this conference, and you'll see a lot of analytics-driven capabilities being demoed and talked about it over not just this conference, but over the next years, because this is really a key part of our technical strategy. We really want to give people better awareness, better situational or contextual awareness that can help them be more productive and smarter as they work. A second very important aspect of what we're doing is something we call convergence. And convergence really is about something that we see as a kind of inflection in the maturing of various technologies. On the one hand, on the back end, we have the cloud revolution that's happening. We want to bring cloud in to the enterprise in a way that it's a natural extension of the enterprise. So we want to converge cloud and on-premises models. On the front end, we want to converge user experiences and have a single sort of user model and user experience that can flow to where people are on their various devices. And thirdly, capabilities. We want to bring together lots of capabilities in a nice sort of integrated way to create that overall converged result for the end user. Third theme is opportunity, and opportunity is really a statement about the kinds of new capabilities that will emerge, and particularly the combinations of capabilities that will be achieved through the vision work that we've been doing here and the technical foundation that we've been building. We think there's going to be a lot of opportunity around, it's really on this theme of social business, the ability to combine social technologies to drive breakthrough business outcomes in various different ways. And then the final theme that's very, very important for me to emphasize is continuity. Project Vulcan is not some kind of a new product that is going to ship sometime in the future. It's a vision, and it's a vision that is guiding the evolution of the products that we currently have in market. And so you'll see these principles that I've been describing here finding their way to market in releases, future releases of our products, including, for example, Lotus Connections, Lotus Notes, and so on, all of our products. And so, the idea is that basically you get to this vision by staying with the products that you have or adopting the products that you're considering, and we will bring this to you. I want to just briefly go through some of the capabilities that we're looking at right now, and that Jason is going to demonstrate some of them in a minute. The integrated collaboration experience, I think enough said. The demo will speak for itself, hopefully. One thing that is really exciting is having that experience flow through to multiple smartphone platforms in an effective way. And I think if any of you were in the mobile strategy session in this room earlier today, you'll have seen some of the promise there around our mobile strategy. Activity streams. You saw a very brief demo of this in the opening general session. This is the ability to aggregate a broad spectrum of both IBM and also third-party content services, applications, and so forth into a common stream where users can gain access to what's going on and sort of work their way through that and actually socialize what they're seeing and really work more productively around an organized view of their business information. Embedded experiences is another sort of complementary capability that allows people to interact in place with application content that's delivered into their social environment, whether it's the mailbox or the activity stream or a community place of some kind, anywhere that's relevant and useful. Ease of extensibility is a very important part. So this is really a developer-oriented capability. We want to make it very easy for you as a deployer of our systems to extend them with the application functionality that you already have to really bring in all of that powerful function and create a unified overall collaborative experience, work experience. Social analytics, we've talked quite a bit about that already. Social analytics is really about understanding the relationships between people and content and using that to drive all kinds of things, making the system smarter in various ways. And Scott will finish with a few words around attention management. This is our larger, longer-term vision around how we really help people pay attention to the right things at the right time. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Jason, and he's going to get down to some real stuff. So thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Charlie.
Do you want the picture?
You would think I was giving a mobile presentation. So as Charlie said, my name's Jason Roy Gary. Yes, I have 3 first names. Could have been worse. I could have been Billy Joe Bob. Could have been David Lee Roth, too, but it didn't work out quite that way. I want to start off by telling you a little story so you understand a little bit more about what we've been doing here on IBM Project Vulcan over the course of the last year. Vulcan actually was a deity of the Etruscans, that small tribe living to the north of another small tribe called the Romans. Now the Romans, on their 7 hills in the nascence of their culture, they were very, very, very enamored with Vulcan because of 3 powers. The first of which was the power to destroy via fire, which fortunately isn't very relevant to what I'm talking about. The second one was the ability to protect from fire, damage, or destruction from enemies and such. But it was the third power that has sort of lasted throughout the ages, and that's the power of improvement. Metal artisans throughout the Middle Ages invoked Vulcan, even years into the Christian era, for that power of improvement, that power to take very basic but good raw materials and make them better. And so when I think about Project Vulcan and I think about the deliveries that we're pushing forward via the IBM Social Business Toolkit, I think about that single power of Vulcan, that power to make things better, to take something that is a market-leading product and incrementally, carefully, prescriptively making it that much better. The URL you see on the screen right now, developer.lotus.com/SBT, is how you can get a chance to go off and look at the Social Business Toolkit. It is live right now, and I highly encourage you to look at sort of the first sip of the cup, as it were, of what we've been doing and where we're headed with the vision of Project Vulcan and the IBM Social Business Toolkit. But rather than me sit here and tell you stories all day, what I'd really like to do is I'd like to take this opportunity to show you that we've gotten a great deal of work done over the last 12 months. And where I'd like to start with is some of the things that you saw yesterday at the open general session. So let's go ahead and go over and, oops. And we'll look at exactly what you saw yesterday, this home page. And on the left-hand side, that's right here, you see your activity stream. Your activity stream allows you to interact directly with events that are being posted to your activity stream from a variety of different services. They could be services such as SAP, Connections. They could be services like Lotus Notes and Domino. They could be various other services from other vendors. And you saw some examples like Solanus and VoiceWrite, business partners of IBM's. When we go ahead and we click on various embedded experiences, what we're going to see is actually the ability to directly interact with that particular event. In this particular case, a new file being placed into my activity stream. And I can look at the file here, I can preview the file, I can add comments to the file, I can share the file, I can edit the file, I can even do other kinds of interaction with these content pieces. I can even go and look at things like budget reports. For example here, you can see. So what I'm showing you here is the power of this activity stream to be pervasive across all of our applications, including this particular homepage that you're seeing. At the top, you see some examples of directly integrating, again, embedding content and events so that I can easily access them and interact with them. In this particular case, you see email. As I go across, there is an overflow area that allows me to be able to place other applications, other services that I would need and want to interact with in the page. I think you saw this yesterday. This is the share box. Now, the share box is nothing more than a compound embedded experience. To be more plain spoken, it is a compound open social gadget, a gadget that can actually hold many other gadgets via a common reference point and a common implementation. Anyone can extend the share box by following some of the provisions and data models that we're making available in the IBM Social Business Toolkit. An example of that is the time tracker here. And you can see this example. I can go in and enter project information, client information, location, and hours. As soon as I go ahead and do that and click Save, an interaction occurs and it allows me to create a new event, new content, that then can propagate itself into others' activity streams. So this is all very interesting. But what would be even more interesting is to really look at how these events can get into the activity stream. Let me show you a couple of examples. The first one, some of you may have seen this product before. It's a legacy file share system. And this file share system allows you to go ahead and kind of deposit files and do interactions with them and make comments on them. I think it's made by Microsoft. And you can go in and add a document. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. And we'll wait while the content loads, and I'll click on Browse, and we'll go ahead and put in this particular file here, and I'll click OK. Now, by doing that, I'm not doing anything special. I'm just putting a file into SharePoint. It's nothing that no one else has obviously done, right? And you can see it there. There's test. But what's occurring is there is an adapter that lives on this SharePoint server, and it's looking for new events, such as a new file coming into the system. It's going to take that event, and it's going to push it to Frank Adams, whom I'm masquerading as activity stream. Well, it's not just limited to things like SharePoint. Well, let's go over to this. How many of you know what this is? This is a team room done in X Pages. What I can actually go do here is also create another event. And I'm going to just go ahead and look at all documents. And I'm going to create a new document. No subtle hint there at all. And I'm going to go ahead and attach a file. And I'll attach this one. And I'll go ahead and click on Save. Now, just to let you know, this also works in the classic Notes client. I'm sure many of you have applications like this that you're looking at and evaluating. What do I do with this application? How do I evolve it to the next level? These applications, these Notes 7, Notes 6, Notes 8 applications, can interact and work with the Social Business Toolkit as well and readily as other products can. This is actually the exact same database that you're seeing being surfaced as an X page. The monitor that's being used here, the adapter, as it were, to push it, is written exclusively in Lotusscript. So for those of you who use Lotusscript technologies to be able to interact with content and data in Notes and Domino, you too can use Lotusscript to directly push to an event such that your content, your information, your event can show up inside the activity stream. So this is all well and good, but what would be even more interesting is if we could see all of this on devices that people use every day. And all apologies, I seem to use Lotusphere every year to embarrass myself further. I think this may be an all-time high, however. Yeah, let's see here. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Come back next year. I might put something else on my head. What I want to show you, and let me go ahead and pan down here so everyone can see what I'm looking at, is I want to show you the instantiation of all the things you just saw. Let me get out of the light here. There we go. And being able to see it directly here on an iPad. So I can go in and I can look at Activity Stream, and let's see if I can get this a little bit better light-wise. Yeah, there we go. But I can also interact with the same activity stream. Let me go over here. And there you go. So you can see it's the exact same activity stream. By the way, this is the same open social gadget that you're seeing here. And while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and grab a Galaxy, and I'll slide it open. And here, you'll be able to see the same content, the same information, the same thing. So here's the activity stream that you saw on an iPhone, on an iPad, on a BlackBerry. It actually works on a myriad of different devices, and it's using open web technologies like the Open Ajax Hub, Open Social, and OAuth. I'm going to go ahead and take this camera off my head, and I'm going to give you a little bit more of a deep dive. If we can switch over to the mobile viewer, please. Let's see here. Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit for you. All right, so what I have here is an iPad. Inside here you can see the activity stream right here. Each one of these activities has an embedded experience, just like you just saw on the desktop. So when I go over here and I click on, that looks familiar, doesn't it? It's the exact same file preview that we saw on the desktop. In fact, it's the exact same gadget that you saw on the desktop. Now, how do we make that happen? We make that happen by adapting and carefully tuning an open social container and allowing the gadgets, using concepts like views and canvases, to surface itself appropriately to the device that it's going on. So while it looks and behaves in one way on an iPhone or a small screen Android device, it looks entirely different on an iPad or inside a Notes install client or on the desktop browser. So let me walk you through some of the key points of this. So I'm going to go back to my home page. Now, as I said before, we're using and enabling the Open Ajax Hub. Now, the Open Ajax Hub is an open standard that allows communication between macro components, that's widgets and gadgets, securely such that they can communicate using events. So I can walk over here and click on Dennis Michaels, for example, and Dennis Michaels pops up. Now I can see Dennis Michaels' profile, but what would be interesting is I'd like to look at Dennis Michaels' communities. Well, I can click on Dennis Michaels' communities, and I can click on, for example, Project Zeus, and I can look directly at the particular communities Dennis Michaels is involved in. I can get into the discussion forum. I can look at feeds. All these things are linked together using the Open Ajax Hub such that they integrate together. Well, let me go ahead and go back to the home page, and I'll show you a few more things. So going back to our friend Dennis Michaels, now, because all of these are based on open standards, and because the container is based on open standards and open specifications, anyone can play in this environment and integrate their capabilities and their services. So, for example, if I go to Dennis Michaels and I go ahead and I can look at various capabilities, I can actually browse and look and see where Dennis Michaels is using a map. I provided for NAVTech, for example. I can also, going back to my activity stream, I can see data that comes from business services. So here you can see a Cognos report, and this is actually a real Cognos report. In fact, I forgot to mention it. All of this code I'm showing to you is real, which means that I could be in big trouble in a moment. But this is a Cognos report. I'm directly interacting with it from my activity stream. And not only can I interact with it simply by seeing it, but I can actually touch the various components of it and get a deep dive into what's going on. Again, this is because a new report arrived, it was sent into my activity stream, and now I'm looking at the embedded experience of it. Let's get another example of that real quick using ACM content. So here, let's see it. Here you can see an example of being able to look at content management and case management information. So here I can see a new case health alert. Now, because this container is very smart, it also understands when I rotate the device to rotate. It understands how to behave and act natively, even though everything that you see here is using web technologies. And I'll go ahead and go back to the home screen. And we can go ahead and flip just to show you some examples. And it will pivot. Let's see. There we go. It's probably better with my helmet on, I suppose. All right, so this gives you a very good example of sort of how these things work and how these things play together. Embedded experiences on mobile devices is actually a very, very powerful thing. Let me go ahead and see if I can power this up real quick. I'm going to show you one more thing. There we go. I'm sure a few of you in the crowd have one of these, maybe one or two. This is an iPhone. One of the things I wanted to show you on the iPhone that we have enabled here is, well, it's good, it's not going to ring. Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and click on Dennis Michaels again. Now, as you notice, when I clicked on Dennis Michaels on the iPad, you know, the gadget itself expanded, had a nice big screen, it used all the real estate, it even provided additional functions that are hidden here on the iPhone. Why? Because it has different canvases, but at its heart, it's simply the same exact gadget that you saw on every single device I showed, including the desktop browser. I'm going to go ahead and click here. And just to show you an example, let's see if this serves up over the network. Now what I did was, I went ahead and Dennis Michaels has an address in connections. Did it load? Yes. Excellent. Dennis Michaels has an address in connections, and there is a context link using that Open Ajax hub. And what you see behind you is a weather gadget from the Weather Channel. Now get this through your head. We've just connected a public service to connections content securely, and I have no idea who wrote this gadget, where they wrote it, or where this gadget lives. And yet I can bring all of them together to provide a solution, to provide something that's very unique and powerful. For example, what the weather is. Apparently it's 41 degrees, which means we're very fortunate to be here. All right. So speaking of embedded experience in different devices, you can go ahead and switch to the, thank you very much. Some of you saw this yesterday. I know it went by relatively quickly, but this is the Notes Next client that we are working on. And as you can see here, funny enough, same file, same gadget, different experience, looks a little bit different, behaves a little bit differently, provides different capabilities, but it's the same programming model. If you are a customer or a business partner, you could, using the toolkit, create these things on your own to provide your own embedded experiences, your own capabilities. So finally, I did want to show you one other mechanism for contributing. Let's see if I can find it here. I don't know if any of you ever had one of these. Thank you. I learned to program on one of these back in 1983. So what I wanted to show you was a demonstration of, because Project Vulkan is inherently based on open standards, and because most modern systems today leverage and utilize those open standards, almost anyone can participate in the Project Vulkan vision, use the IBM Social Business Toolkit, and do social business, even the Commodore 64. So let me do this. For those of you who remember a Commodore 64, this is a little excruciating. I did not connect the real hard drive, the real disk drive to it because we'd be here all week. I'm going to go ahead and click enter. It's loading. You had to click run then. There was no such thing as automatic running. And what I have on here is a micro HTTP stack. And sometimes it actually works. So let's cross our fingers and see that it does. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell it to send me off a gadget. And what it's asking me a canvas is, it's saying, well, what do you want me to show as the embedded experience? So I'm going to pick something simple, C64.png. It's interesting to point out that there was no such thing as a PNG file in 1983. It's going to ask me for an icon. I'm not even sure there were icons in 1983. C64 icon.png. There certainly wasn't lowercase. Old computers got game. Excellent. And destination, none of you saw this. You don't even know what this is. Excellent. And it's thinking, excellent. So let's go ahead and go back to that Lotus Live River. Now, we've done a number of different contributions to this river, and it's entirely possible that we've got no updates at all. But let's go ahead and let's see if the activity stream has changed based on some of the things that we've done over the course of this demonstration. So I'm going to go ahead and hit F5, and we're going to load this up. And it's thinking. Oh. The suspense is killing me. Let's see. Transferring data. Well, I guess that's a good sign. Almost. Excellent. And there you can see, old computers got game. Unless you think I was joking. Come on, it's got to load it up. Yes. All right, fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and shut down my old friend here, and we're going to go ahead and walk through some of the things that are going on within Project Vulkan and with the Social Business Toolkit. So let me go ahead and go back to here. This happened to me before. So I'm going to go ahead and walk through this way. We've done a number of initiatives that we started with in the Social Business Toolkit. And I'm going to walk you through some of them. And let me start at the top, and I'm going to work my way around. Let me grab this. The first one is web user experience. If we're going to do all these things we talked about, if we're going to provide this convergence that Charlie was talking about before, well, there's an awful lot of work we need to do into providing a very consistent and extensible user experience for web. We've been doing a great deal of work around this and trying to make this, and you saw some examples of it, and I'm going to walk through a few more. Cloud. There's an awful lot of talk about cloud, but there's not a lot of work as to date as to figuring out exactly how do we handle these different deployment models, and what makes sense from a security perspective, and how do we implement that. Speaking of security, a lot of the things I just showed you would probably give some security people heartache if it weren't for some emerging standards that are very powerful in the space. So things like SAML and OAuth and Spinego that are allowing us to do some very, very interesting things and do embedded experiences and bring in content from a variety of different sources and do so securely. Speaking of open standards, all of what you've seen here is based on open standards. Otherwise, my old friend, the Commodore 64, would have a really hard time posting to an aggregator in 2011. And finally, mobile first. There's been a lot of talk about mobility and how important it is. I myself brought 4 devices up here. But we're very serious about mobile in IBM. And I'll show you a few examples of what we're doing. Let's see if it'll actually change. Let me slide this over. All right, so when we started off trying to have some user experience goals for our web user experience work. Right? We wanted to provide seamless access from anywhere. We wanted to bring things together, unify things. So where you saw at the top, I have a share box regardless of my context. It's very important to us. And whatever we do, we wanted to bring it not just to the desktop, but we wanted to bring it to mobile devices, and you saw some examples. Embedded experience is obviously vital. And finally, we wanted to make sure that we could integrate business applications. We wanted to bring in data from Cognos, from Solanus, from VoiceWrite, from Cormetrics. And you saw a number of those either at the OGS or ones that I just demonstrated to you. So let me go ahead. Unfortunately, I need to do this the old-fashioned way. Here's some examples of what we're talking about. In this particular case, you can see at the left, I have an ability to quickly browse my mail. I can go to applications, and I can actually put in third-party extensions. So if I have core applications, even if they're Notes and Domino applications, they can play in this space and drop right into the menu. I have access to my profile at any particular point. And I have the share box anywhere I want to go. I can have filters so that I can filter this activity stream. I can look at my calendar, my mail, and bring all of these disparate pieces together and integrate with them and work with them in the same space at the same time. I can collaborate in context, and you saw the embedded experience, being able to do a full screen preview, being able to miniaturize it, being able to do various things with it, embedded experiences. And then I can directly edit things using some of the work that was shown yesterday at the Open General Session by going in and contextually collaborating and editing it using Lotus Live Symphony. Same-time access is everywhere. So regardless of where you are inside the user experience, same time is going to be available to you in the lower right-hand corner. You'll be able to click on it, get presence information, get your buddy list, and instantly go out and chat. And lastly, you saw about mobile being able to have the home page and the activity streams. So that's sort of where we are with the user experience. Don't hold me to these as being final designs, but this is what we've been working on and what we've been thinking on. I'm going to spend just a few moments on mobile. Mobile first, that's a phrase that's probably been bandied about for quite some time. But I'll tell you what it means to me. When we design something, when we sit down and put pen to paper and start figuring out what we're doing, we're not going to think of mobile first and the desktop second. That's not what mobile first means. What it means is, when we start designing, when we start building, mobile is just as prominent, just as important as is the traditional install client and the desktop browser client in everything that we do. You know, I'm a software architect. I'm actually required by law to have slides like this in my presentation deck. It's not even just a state law, it's a federal law. What I'm really trying to show you here is that on our mobile strategy, we're trying to embrace a mix of the web technologies that I showed you before and certain key native technologies, install app technologies, and bind those capabilities together using that sort of that bar at the midway that says activity streams, embedded experience, etc., using the IBM Social Business Toolkit. We believe we can bind the best of what is native on a platform and what makes sense to be native on a platform with the web technologies like I showed you here to be able to create a competitive, extensible experience on mobile. And extensible is the key phrase here, because what we really want to do is to allow you, the customers, to be able to customize and extend these solutions so they make the best sense for your organization. So we started off, we always have to have a vision. So this was our mobile technical vision. We wanted to be extensible, we wanted to be social, we wanted to be componentized, and we wanted it to be best fit. Now I showed you a couple examples of this, but I'm going to beat you to death, proverbially honest, about what I really think is key and important around embedded experiences. Every one of the pictures that you see there, whether it's inside the Notes Install client, on a BlackBerry, on a desktop browser, on an iPad, on an iPhone, in Android. One of our partners, Nokia, has it demonstrated downstairs in the trade show. Regardless of where it is, the embedded experience, that open social gadget that is created either by IBM, our customers, or our partners, will be consistent across all of these devices. In this particular case, file preview. Just a couple more screenshots. Obviously, we've optimized for performance. Actually, the container that you saw and the performance you saw there is real. It's 38K in size, and we're working on getting it smaller. And here's just another example, and you saw this before, of the Cognos application. If you recall correctly, when you saw the Cognos gadget on the iPad, it was huge, right? It had all these buttons and a graph. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense if I have a 4x3-inch screen. And so the gadget recognizes that, and the container allows it to bring the proper view. Standards. When you get in your car and you drive to the filling station and you put gasoline or petrol, if you're from England, into it, you're reasonably certain that it's not going to destroy your car. Why? Why do you know this? Because there are standards. Automobile manufacturers, fuel manufacturers, they have decided on a series of standards that allow portability and extensibility to those devices. You feel with confidence that you can do these things, and you can go right up and just fill it right up, unless you put diesel in a petrol car, in which case all bets are off. But it's true also in these emerging technologies that are available for web and mobile. First one, Open Social. I'm actually IBM's board member on the Open Social Foundation, and Open Social is providing an extensible capability around these portable macro components, these gadgets, as it were. OAuth, which is a huge and very prominent technology, along with SAML, in bringing security and making security available so that we can do things like embed content that may or may not be secure and feel safe that it won't intrude or be able to take other content that is secure from our solution or application. CMIS, Atom, activity streams, which you've seen quite a bit of, but it hasn't been said. You've seen activity streams as in the content that's coming in. There's actually a standard specification that IBM participates in called activity streams that allows us to be able to use and be able to display what you see. You know, the activity stream itself is not a visual thing. You don't look at the activity stream and go, oh yes, I'm getting this. It's pretty. The activity stream, when you really peel back the user experience from it, though we certainly will provide one, is nothing more than data wrapped in a standard. And activity streams is the standard we're utilizing. HTML5, you saw a number of examples of it for me rotating the screen, etc. And lastly, open. You know, Scott, you scare me sometimes. And lastly, OpenAjax. OpenAjax, you saw some examples of me using OpenAjax to be able to communicate between various gadgets. So open standards are actually extremely important in our strategy as we move forward. And Scott's going to talk a little bit more about security and the IBM Social Business Toolkit.
Sure. So I thought Jason was just having trouble putting I was thinking that's a sign of a real engineer. He's on the Open Social Board programming his Commodore 64 into this activity stream, but he can't put the slideshow back into slideshow mode. But it's the computer. It's not Jason's fault. So yeah, just to continue on a couple of these, and I'll go pretty fast because I want to make sure we have time for questions. Security. Around security, what we're doing is driving a set of blueprints, guidelines, and common components. And when I say blueprints here, it's important to say this isn't blueprints in kind of the classic computer programming sense where, you know, the developer gets some blueprints and they promptly ignore them. This is more the architectural sense where you follow the blueprints or you get sued. So these blueprints around things like cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, you know, obviously preventing these things, common components like an active content filter that came originally from our research lab in Tokyo and is now across a huge range of Lotus and IBM products, and we're moving towards where it's going to be the same component in all of them. Common blueprints and guidelines around single sign-on. Obviously, we already support single sign-on today, but driving greater consistency, greater simplicity in particular in documenting the standard cases that we more aggressively test. That's right, I got to click this thing. Around cloud, what we're doing in this initiative, you know, if you look at something like Lotus Live, you'll see that there's already aspects of Vulkan, if you think about the Vulkan principles, appearing in Lotus Live. So you look at things like the services appearing there, Notes Web, for example. You see this Notes and Domino, same system appearing on the web. Parts of Lotus Connections, the activities and community service, the extensibility mechanisms. These are things like the open social gadgets and APIs that are supported. They're aspects of the common homepage, the common look and feel that you're going to see. In Connections 3 and in Lotus Live, you're seeing a lot of consistency around the navigation, around the UI, the standards like OAuth, the REST APIs, the commonality around REST APIs. So a number of aspects are appearing in Lotus Live, or already have appeared in Lotus Live. Going forward, we continue to drive the Vulkan principles, the Vulkan vision into the cloud as well as on-premise, and a lot of these things appearing first in the cloud. The toolkit being a cloud-centric thing, the capabilities underlying the toolkit, or that the toolkit enables, the activity stream, the embedded experience, the ShareBox, all appearing in Lotus Live over time, using the exact same services that are in Connections, and to that matter, other parts of Connections and other Lotus capabilities appearing in Lotus Live in the same sense we've seen Notes, Domino, communities, and activities appearing there, driving a common code base, common services, common capabilities. So we're going to talk a little about the toolkit now. So the approach we're taking here, if you want the philosophy behind this toolkit is the mechanism for partners, for customers, anyone deploying our services to extend those services. And there's really a couple different pieces here. If you look, the toolkit includes the APIs that we already have in our products. So we're bringing those together in a central place. But what we're talking about here, the Vulkan aspects, kind of the next phase of the toolkit, or the innovation aspects of Project Vulkan, that's what we're talking about here, those new capabilities. And there's actually a session focused on specifically on the details and usage of the Social Business Toolkit. That's at AD 501. What's really important to think about when you think about this toolkit, and Jason, you know, Charlie mentioned some of this stuff, Jason got into it a number of times, is that we're trying to allow you to build things more simply, more cheaply, and gain more value from them. And what I mean from this very concretely, and again, Jason made this point repeatedly, you build it once, you run it in multiple places. If you push an event to the activity stream, that works regardless of whether it's on premises or in the cloud. If you create an embedded experience, that gadget works or will work. These are things emerging over time in Notes, in iNotes, in Lotus, in Notes Web, in Connections, in did I get everything? The aspects go both ways. So we have other products, other Lotus products as well coming into those and appearing in those. Anything we extend the share box with, anything you extend the share box with, again, works in all those scenarios, basically all of our UIs. The other parts I wanted to mention were regardless of the user experience, rich client, browser, mobile, regardless of the mobile device. Again, the same integration and extensibility for all these things. The high value given to standards is really important. As Jason mentioned, he's our representative to the Open Social Board. He's really central in driving, he is the central force driving the enterprise enablement of the Open Social Standard. We have other participation in other standards such as activity streams, Atom, and so on. The community here is really important. We're not just providing this toolkit, we want to provide an active developer community around it, and to that end, I'll restate the comment about please go take a look at this. This is, again, what you see in the link that we mentioned before is the initial versions of this toolkit. It's toolkit for developers. This is a developer version of the toolkit. We want to establish an active community there. We want to make sure we're communicating out to you in the most honest fashion we can, getting our architects telling you what they're thinking. And we want to make sure you're able to contribute to the forums, ask questions, that we're going to be responsive to those. So we encourage you to contribute to that community. The picture here, I know it's a little complex, but it really gets across a lot of the key ideas of what we're talking about here. If you look in the middle, you see the Lotus services there in blue, the aggregator has a repository. The aggregator is the service behind the activity stream. We have, again, these common APIs on them. You see the same representation mirrored between cloud and on-premises. Again, this is what we're moving towards, the exact same services. So if you look in white then, you start seeing the places where you can integrate in any service. Whether you're a partner or a customer, you can integrate in the services that you have. So if you post an activity, again, that can go into either source. In the client here, we have the kind of layout. You see the navigation, the activity stream. Your events appear as events in the activity stream. Your embedded experiences appear regardless of which client, regardless of which product. Sharebox, menu for navigation. If you have your own client, and again, this is important when we talk about this term, social business applications, there's two ways to hear that. You can hear it as social business applications, which is adding social aspects to your business applications, or you can hear it as social business applications. What we're building, so in Connections, is a social business application, but the bottom here is about adding social to your business applications or any business applications, in which case you can take the iWidgets and open social gadgets we produce and embed them in there. That includes the activity stream. It includes the other widgets and gadgets that we're producing as well. So we want to make sure these same capabilities, because of the heavy use of open standards, are embeddable in your own applications as well. Just in the interest of time, we've pretty much said everything on this slide, so I'm going to skip over it, except to just say at the bottom here, the activity stream is what's documented out in the toolkit now. Over the months ahead, you'll see the extensibility, the documentation, the samples and such for embedded experiences, Sharebox, and the integration into the navigation. So these are things that are going to appear over time, with the activity stream being the first capability there. And again, in the interest of time, I'm going to go through this really quickly. I want to make sure we have time for questions. Partners we're working with, we have some partners business partners who have already produced integration into the activity stream and embedded experiences, Solanas, VoiceRight, CSK. We have a number of organizations internally we're working with. Cast Iron, which is an IBM acquisition, is something we're looking at to drive integration with a variety of business sources, things like SAP, other ERP systems, HR systems, workflow systems, et cetera. It connects us to a wide range of systems. So we're working with them as well to really open that up. Finally, moving on from that for a minute, I'm going to talk very briefly about where we're going next. So we have this set of initiatives under Vulkan, and those set of initiatives increase over time. We keep expanding. We don't get there's no initiatives that go away. We still focus on security, the common componentry there. We still focus on the cloud integration. Some of them expand. For example, around cloud, we focus Vulkan more heavily on hybrid. There's some capabilities there already from the Notes website. We want to make sure that regardless of what service it is, you can mix and match capabilities between cloud and on-premises freely. Search, looking at aspects, all the products have search, looking at aspects like federated search capabilities, search on the activity stream. And then once you have this kind of search on the activity stream or in the access from the activity stream, we get into the really interesting stuff at the bottom here, which I think is really the point at which the Vulkan delivers on its vision when we start looking at the attention management and advanced analytics. We have some basic analytics now around Notes, the way it provides you a type head that's more sensitive to what you're doing. Connections 3.0 has some recommendations around people and communities that depend on analytics. But what we're looking at going forward, and if you go to the Innovation Lab, you'll really see some of the things, some of the research groups we're working very actively with around the ability to analyze the information flowing into this activity stream and make decisions, make determinations based off that, and help you filter down the information you have. This is the ubiquitous information flood problem. There's more of a challenge as you pull more information into this activity stream beyond something like the Connections River of News, which was focused on Connections alone. When Connections has the opened activity stream, it's that much more of a challenge. So we want to make sure there's really powerful ways to filter this down, focus in, pivot across things like projects, have fine-grained control over what's in your stream and what isn't, build up composable dashboards. Again, there's a lot of things here around the analytics and attention management and what you can do to get a glimpse of where we're going with this. Again, I mentioned the Innovation Lab. These are some of the things I'd encourage you to see. Now, I want to make it clear that when we talk about what's going on in the Innovation Lab and in research, Connections, the social software side of our organization has been very aggressive about moving research into product. We talk about SAN streams. SAN, Social and Network Discovery, came out of our Haifa Research Lab, and it is one of the fastest, probably the fastest example of research to product I've ever seen. In less than 9 months, it was in a shipping product from the time we started that transition. And that's because of some earlier work we had done with them, and they have prepared very well for that. SAN shipped in Connections 2.5 in the search engine. It provided our recommendations in 3.0. And they're working on some really interesting innovations around further analytics and attention management. Things like Social Lens and attention management in email. Icarus and attention management in email focus on attention management as a problem in email. Social Lens and SAN are focusing on connections, but all these are really generally applicable. So what we're going to do, and what we are doing with these teams, is pulling all these concepts together. It's not all around analytics and attention management. We have other pieces like mobile and Lotus Live Labs, which is our way of getting information out there. Getting capabilities out there for you to try out. Last little bit, and if you guys want to come back up here to answer any questions, but some other places you may want to go. We have people who can talk about Vulkan in the Meet the Developers Lab. We have a place there. You can also, some of the Connections people are very familiar with it and able to talk about it as well. The User Experience Lab. We have our 2 business partner contacts in the Collaboration Solution Development Lab, who are the ones who have been working with the business partners we've engaged with. So if you're interested in engaging with Vulkan or seeing it, those are places to go, and here's some other sessions as well. So on that note, I'll leave that here.
Okay, I think we've got about 5 minutes for questions.
Any questions? I think is it just
the mics are in the center of the aisles.
Thanks, there's the 2, yeah.
So if you want to ask a question, please come up to one of the mics everyone can hear the question.
Yes, please.
Hi, guys. That was very informative. Thank you. Just wanted to ask, yesterday in the opening session, there was mention of social mail. Can you enlighten us a bit more on what that might actually be involved in? Is that like way out in the vision, or something coming?
Yeah, well, we're not making any product statements around it. I mean, there's basically some activity around exploring how to make mail more social, and it's kind of both, you know, mail as part of the social environment, but also social capabilities within traditional mail as a channel. So that's the topic. If we had more to say on the Project Vulcan initiative, we would have had it in the content today. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yes. Can you speak to the difference of the collaboration toolkit and the social toolkit?
Yeah, the correct name is the Social Business Toolkit. The other one is, it was a working name. It should go away at this point. Any other questions?
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Well, thanks very much. Appreciate your time.